Welcome to the Truth Chronicles, where we delve into the complex and often controversial histories of the world's most influential figures. Today we're taking a closer look at one of the most polarizing leaders in modern history, Benito Mussolini. From his early days as a socialist and political journalist to his rise as the Dictator of Italy and eventual downfall during World War II, Mussolini's legacy continues to be debated and analyzed by historians and scholars. In this video, we'll explore his life, political career, and the impact he had on Italy and the world. So, if you're ready to separate fact from fiction and uncover the truth about Benito Mussolini, then join us as we embark on this journey through history on the Truth Chronicles. Have you ever wondered about the life of the man who birthed fascism? Today we dive deeper into the life of this infamous dictator, starting from his humble beginnings. Born on July 29, 1883, in the small Italian town of Predappio, Mussolini was the eldest child of Alessandro Mussolini, a blacksmith, and Rosa Maltoni, a schoolteacher. Alessandro was a fervent socialist, his beliefs shaping the political consciousness of young Benito. The influence of his father's politics was to play a significant role in Mussolini's life, setting the stage for the fiery speeches and ideologies that would characterize his future. Benito Mussolini, a name that would later echo through the annals of history, began his journey in a modest household, under the guiding influence of a blacksmith father's socialist beliefs. From these humble beginnings, Mussolini was set on a path that would change the course of history. Mussolini's political journey began early, leading him to a life away from home and into the military. In the early years of the 20th century, he relocated to Switzerland to dodge military service in his homeland. Here, Mussolini found himself embroiled in socialist politics, working as a laborer amongst the working class. However, his evasion of military service was short-lived. By 1904, Mussolini returned to Italy, ready to fulfill his duty. After completing his military service, he embarked on a career in education as a schoolteacher, but his passion for politics led him down a different path. He became a political journalist, using his intellect and eloquence to voice his socialist views. Mussolini was known for his fervent speeches and writings, and his charisma was undeniable. However, his pro-war stance was met with opposition within the Italian Socialist Party, a controversy that culminated in his expulsion. His early political journey was marked by his passionate speeches and writings, and a controversial stance that led to his expulsion from the Italian Socialist Party. With the onset of World War I, Mussolini found his political calling, leading to the birth of fascism. As the war raged across Europe, Mussolini was not sitting idly by. He founded the Fasci di Combattimento in 1919, a group that would later evolve into the National Fascist Party. This wasn't an ordinary political party, it was a movement, a call to arms, a new vision for Italy. Mussolini himself was no stranger to the battlefield. He served in World War I as a soldier, and his experiences on the front line deeply influenced his political ideology. He saw the war as a crucible, a testing ground for the strength and resolve of nations. And he believed that Italy, through struggle and sacrifice, could rise to greatness. But what did Mussolini's fascism stand for? At its core, fascism was characterized by nationalism, militarism, and corporatist economic policies. Nationalism, for Mussolini, meant a unified Italy, free from foreign influence and standing strong among the world's powers. Militarism was a natural extension of this. A strong nation needed a strong military, one that could defend Italy's interests and uphold its honor. The economic side of fascism was perhaps its most distinctive feature. Mussolini advocated for corporatism, a system where business and labor would cooperate under state supervision to set prices and wages. Corporatism, Mussolini believed, would prevent class conflict and ensure social harmony while preserving private property and enterprise. Mussolini's vision attracted many who were disillusioned with the political status quo, and his party grew rapidly. By 1921, the National Fascist Party was officially formed, with Mussolini at its helm. The party's black-shirted paramilitary squads, known as the Black Shirts, became a common sight in Italy as they marched in rallies, clashed with socialists, and made a show of force. His political ideologies led to the March on Rome, a mass demonstration that would change his life and Italy forever. In the next scene, we'll delve into this pivotal moment in Mussolini's life and explore how he rose to become the Prime Minister of Italy. Mussolini's political ambitions didn't stop at forming a political party. He wanted to rule Italy. In October 1922, the March on Rome, a mass demonstration of Mussolini's followers, demanded his appointment as prime minister. King Victor Emmanuel III, fearing a civil war, granted Mussolini's request. Thus began Mussolini's 21-year reign as Italy's prime minister from 1922 to 1943. Mussolini was not content with simply holding the title of prime minister. He sought to establish a fascist dictatorship, reshaping Italy to fit his vision of a nationalist, militaristic society centered on corporatist economic policies. In this system, labor and business cooperated to set prices and wages, a departure from traditional capitalist or socialist models. One of the most significant legislative changes during Mussolini's tenure was the Acerbo Law of 1923. This law effectively rigged the parliamentary system in favor of Mussolini and his National Fascist Party, giving the party with the most votes 2/3 of the seats in parliament, ensuring a comfortable majority. Enforcement of Mussolini's policies wasn't always peaceful or democratic. His paramilitary black shirts, also known as squadristi, were notorious for their violent attacks on socialists, communists, and other political opponents. This violence and intimidation were instrumental in consolidating Mussolini's power and suppressing opposition. Yet Mussolini's rule was not solely defined by repression and violence. He also sought to modernize Italy's infrastructure and economy. Significant investments were made in Italy's railways, aiming to modernize the country's transport system. Mussolini also implemented large-scale public works projects, such as the draining of the Pontine marshes, which created new agricultural land and employment opportunities. Mussolini's reign was marked by repression, violence, and a relentless pursuit of power. His legacy, however, remains a complex and controversial part of Italy's history. His reign, characterized by autocracy and corporatism, left an indelible mark on Italy, shaping its political, economic, and social fabric in ways that still resonate today. The life of Benito Mussolini is a testament to the power of ideology and the dangers of unchecked ambition. Born in Predappio, Italy, he was raised in a socialist household, but his political beliefs took a sharp turn following his expulsion from the Italian Socialist Party. From the ashes of his former affiliations, Mussolini gave birth to the fascist movement, a doctrine characterized by extreme nationalism, militarism, and corporatist economics. As prime minister, he established a dictatorship, using violence and intimidation to suppress opposition and consolidate power. His reign witnessed significant infrastructural developments, but also a brutal campaign in Libya and the establishment of a police state. Born in 1883 in Predappio, Italy, Benito Mussolini was a fervent socialist in his youth. However, the change blew and Mussolini's ideologies shifted dramatically. He founded the National Fascist Party in 1921, setting Italy on a path towards a new political era. Mussolini knew the power of words. He used newspapers like Il Popolo d'Italia and harnessed the reach of radio broadcasts to disseminate his message. His charisma and carefully crafted public image further propelled him into the limelight. The Fascist Party's symbol, a bundle of rods known as the fasces, became a ubiquitous emblem of unity and strength. Through these channels, Mussolini spread his vision of a strong, united Italy, captivating the hearts of many. And thus, Mussolini, armed with propaganda and a cult of personality, became Italy's dictator. Now imagine a dictator with a grand vision for expansion. That was Mussolini. His foreign policy was a canvas painted with broad strokes of ambition and aggression. Mussolini dreamt of a new Roman Empire, a vision that fueled his desire to expand Italy's territory and influence. To achieve this, he formed an alliance with Nazi Germany, a partnership that would come to define a dark chapter in world history. Yet, Mussolini's ambitions didn't stop at alliances. In 1939, he invaded Albania, adding another piece to his envisioned empire. Back home, he used propaganda as a brush to color his actions in the hues of nationalism and power. He presented himself as a strong leader, a man with the will and the strength to restore Italy's past glory. With his propaganda machine in full swing, Mussolini led Italy into an alliance with the world's most notorious dictator, Adolf Hitler. But what happens when a dictator's ambitions lead his country into a destructive war? This question was answered as Italy, under the rule of Mussolini, entered World War II in June 1940, on the side of the Axis powers. It was a decision that would lead to immense suffering and loss for the Italian people. Mussolini, enthralled by the idea of a new Roman Empire, believed that siding with Germany and Japan would help him achieve his expansionist goals. However, Italy was ill-prepared for the war, both militarily and economically. The Italian army was under-equipped and poorly trained compared to the formidable forces of the Allied powers. As a result, Italy suffered significant losses, both on the battlefield and at home. The war was not only fought on the front lines, but also in the hearts and minds of ordinary Italians. Mussolini's propaganda machine, once so effective in promoting his image as a strong leader, began to falter. The people, faced with the harsh realities of war, grew increasingly discontent. The constant bombardment of propaganda could not hide the fact that their sons and husbands were dying, their cities were being bombed, and their stomachs were empty. As the war progressed, the tide turned against the Axis powers. The Allies began a successful campaign in North Africa, and then turned their attention to Italy. By July 1943, they had invaded Sicily, marking the beginning of the end for Mussolini's regime. The invasion of Italy exposed the weaknesses of Mussolini's leadership and the fragility of his rule. The Italian people, disillusioned and war-weary, turned against Mussolini. His propaganda had failed to maintain their support, and his promises of victory and glory were empty. In a historic vote on the 25th of July 1943, the Fascist Grand Council passed a motion of no confidence against Mussolini, leading to his arrest and the end of his dictatorship. In the end, Mussolini's propaganda could not hide the reality of Italy's situation. The dictator was overthrown and arrested in 1943, marking the end of his reign. So what can we learn from Mussolini's use of propaganda and his cult of personality? Mussolini's story serves as a stark reminder of the intoxicating power of propaganda and the cult of personality. His rise to power was fueled by these tools, manipulating public opinion and establishing an image of a strong, unassailable leader. His fall, however, was just as precipitous. In the face of his aggressive foreign policy and the disastrous losses of World War II, his once indomitable image crumbled. The very people who once hailed him as a hero turned against him, leading to his eventual overthrow and arrest in 1943. Today, in an era of unprecedented access to information, the importance of critical thinking and media literacy cannot be overstated. It's crucial that we learn to discern fact from fiction, to question what we see and hear. What do you believe is the enduring legacy of Mussolini? This is a question that invites us to delve into the complexities of history, to grapple with the paradoxes of a man who was both a charismatic leader and a brutal dictator. Mussolini's imprint on Italian politics and culture is undeniable, but the nature of that impact is as diverse as the people who lived under his rule. So, without further ado, let's dive into the life of this complex and controversial figure. Benito Mussolini, born in 1883, embarked on a path that would change the course of Italian history. Raised in a humble family, his father was a blacksmith and a socialist, while his mother was a devout Catholic schoolteacher. Young Mussolini was a fiery individual, often getting into trouble, but he was also intelligent and had a passion for reading. After completing his education, Mussolini briefly worked as a schoolteacher before moving to Switzerland in 1902. It was here that he was exposed to a variety of political ideologies, including socialism, anarchism, and syndicalism. He returned to Italy in 1904 and became an active participant in the Italian Socialist Party. However, the outbreak of the First World War led to a major shift in Mussolini's political views. While the majority of socialists were against Italy's participation in the war, Mussolini believed it would hasten the collapse of capitalist societies. This led to his expulsion from the Socialist Party in 1914. In 1919, post-World War I, Mussolini founded the Fascist Party. Drawing from his socialist background and his experiences during the war, he developed an ideology that emphasized nationalism, militarism, and a one-party state ruled by a strong leader. The March on Rome in 1922 was a pivotal moment in Mussolini's political career. Tens of thousands of his black shirt followers marched on the capital, demanding the resignation of the Prime Minister and the formation of a new government. King Victor Emmanuel III, fearing civil war, appointed Mussolini as Prime Minister. In the following years, Mussolini gradually dismantled the democratic institutions of Italy. He suppressed political dissent, controlled the press, and used propaganda to foster a cult of personality around himself. His government promoted fascist ideals of discipline, order, and national pride. By 1925, Mussolini had established a one-party rule and was styled as Il Duce, the leader. His dominance of Italian politics would continue for the next 2 decades, a period marked by aggressive foreign policy, internal repression, and the transformation of Italy into a totalitarian state. In 1943, Mussolini's reign seemed to end abruptly. His position as Prime Minister was stripped away by King Victor Emmanuel III, marking the beginning of a tumultuous period in Italian history. The king's dismissal was a hammer blow to Mussolini's power, but it was far from the end of his story. Soon after his dismissal, Mussolini was arrested. Italy, a nation he had ruled with an iron fist, seemed to have turned against him. However, fate had another card to play. German forces, allies of Italy during the war, orchestrated a daring rescue operation, freeing Mussolini from his captors. This rescue marked the start of a new, albeit short-lived chapter in Mussolini's political career. With the backing of the Germans, he went on to establish the Italian Social Republic, more commonly known as the Salo Republic, in northern Italy. This puppet state, under German control, was a far cry from the powerful fascist Italy that Mussolini had once ruled over. In the Salo Republic, Mussolini was a figurehead, a leader in name only. He held the title of the head of state, but the real power lay in the hands of his German overseers. Despite this, he continued to exert his influence where he could, maintaining his fiery rhetoric and authoritarian rule. The Salo Republic was a stark reflection of the war-torn Europe of the time. It was a state born out of desperation and maintained through fear. It was here that Mussolini's ideology was pushed to its extreme, with the implementation of Nazi-style racial policies and anti-Jewish laws. This period was a dark chapter in Mussolini's rule. It was a time of war, of division, and of extreme ideologies. Yet it was also a testament to Mussolini's unyielding ambition, his refusal to fade into obscurity, and his enduring belief in his own political vision. Mussolini's time in the Salo Republic marked a dark chapter in his rule. It was a period of history that illuminated the depths of his authoritarianism and the lengths he was willing to go to maintain power. The end for Mussolini was as dramatic as his political career. In the waning days of the Second World War, his control of the Italian Social Republic, the puppet state in northern Italy, was hanging by a thread. On April 28, 1945, Mussolini's fate was sealed. He was captured by Italian partisans and, along with his mistress Clara Petacci, was executed. Their bodies were taken to Milan, to the very public Piazzale Loreto. The display of Mussolini's corpse was a stark symbol of the fall of a dictator. Hung upside down, the bodies of Mussolini and Petacci were subjected to the anger and humiliation of the public. The very people who had once lived under his rule now had the power to express their feelings towards the fallen dictator. There was no dignity in death for the man who had ruled Italy with an iron fist. The public's reaction to Mussolini's death was a mixture of joy, relief, and anger. For many, it was the end of a nightmare, a closure to a period of fear and oppression. But for others, it was a time of reckoning, a chance to reflect on the cost of Mussolini's rule, the lives lost, and the freedoms curtailed. Mussolini's death marked the end of an era, but not the end of his influence. Mussolini's legacy is as intricate as the man himself. As we delve into the depths of this narrative, we find 3 main aspects that define his impact. Firstly, Mussolini's reign brought about a radical metamorphosis, transforming Italy into a modern industrialized nation. However, his rule was equally synonymous with ruthless dictatorship and egregious human rights violations. Secondly, his influence didn't just stop at his grave, it seeped into the lives of his successors, with some tying themselves to the neo-fascist movements in Italian politics. Lastly, neo-fascism in Italy, a resuscitation of fascist practices, has been implicated in numerous violent incidents and hate crimes. This serves as a dire reminder that Mussolini's rule still casts a long and ominous shadow. Implications of Mussolini's rule, a cocktail of harsh dictatorship and modernization, continue to linger, painting a vivid yet convoluted picture of the man and his legacy. Before we conclude our journey through Mussolini's life and legacy, let's take a moment to reflect on what we can learn. History, after all, is our greatest teacher. The story of Mussolini serves as a potent reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the seductive appeal of charismatic leaders. His rise to power, driven by a potent mix of nationalism and populism, echoes in the political landscapes of many nations today. Yet, we must also remember the human cost of his regime, the lives lost and liberties curtailed. This is not a tale of a hero or villain, but a complex figure whose actions continue to reverberate through the decades. As we move forward, let's carry the lessons of Mussolini's story with us. Let's strive to learn from our past, to foster open dialogue, and to challenge the narratives that seek to divide us. In a world where the echoes of the past often resound in the present, understanding our history is more crucial than ever. And remember, history is not just about the past, it's about the future we choose to create.